Hey guys, Sofin here. Today I saw the new film, The War of the Rohirrim, and now I want to talk to you about it. The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim is a new animated film that takes place in the universe of J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth. It follows King Helm Hammerhand and his family in their fight against a treasonous Lord of Rohan. After a daring attack, Helm and his people find themselves forced to retreat to their keep at the Hornburg. Initially, I found myself attracted to this film because of its attachment to the Lord of the Rings franchise. I loved those films in the past, and seeing Peter Jackson's name on the poster for this film drew me in like a moth to the flame. It turns out he didn't have much to do with it. They used the visual landscape from his films as a basis for their artwork, but he didn't have any real involvement in the making of it. So score 1 for marketing, I guess. Kenji Kamiyama directed the film, which stars Brian Cox as Helm Hammerhand, Gaia Wise as Hera, Miranda Otto as Eowyn the narrator, and Luca Pasqualino as Wolf the rebellious young lord. The movie is a 2-hour animated fantasy adventure film that tells a multi-year tale of revenge, despair, war, and finding hope in the darkest hour. It's filled with big fantasy-style drama and action, as well as a ton of magical moments to spruce up the story. The story does a good job of explaining itself and its characters, so that you understand everyone's motivations, but it maybe spends a little too long drawing out certain events. It has a ton of great emotional beats, good character development, and does a great job of building up the tension during the different battle sequences. It also has a lot of eye-rolling moments that feel like they were ripped off from other media, specifically the Lord of the Rings films. There are direct copy moments, like when one of the princes kills an elephant and then slides down its trunk, and there are less obvious moments, like the people of Rohan escaping through the tunnels in Helm's Deep. There's also a ton of direct references to the films and Tolkien's other work interspersed throughout the story. Sometimes it feels okay, and other times it just feels like nostalgia bait, like near the end. They start name-dropping Gandalf to try and get you excited about a sequel. It felt cheap and completely unnecessary. Another flaw the story has is that at times the action feels a little cartoonish. They have characters flipping through the air while swinging their weapons, jumping from impossible heights, doing superhero landings, and shaking off blows from giant monsters. The Lord of the Rings movies were fantasy stories too, but this one felt a little more over the top than the films ever did. This felt more like Highlander and less like The Return of the King. Cast-wise, the film is filled with wonderful performances. You have Brian Cox playing a brash old king who gets humbled while having a few heroic moments. Then there's Gaia Wise as Princess Hera, a wild princess who thinks her way out of problems rather than just fighting. On the other side, you have Luca Pasqualino playing a sympathetic villain who grows into a despicable character. All of them do a fantastic job bringing their characters' emotional journeys to life and adding a ton of emotional range to the film. They tell a tragic tale of egos gone wrong and manage to draw out all kinds of sadness, anger, and hope. The general cast around them does a fantastic job. You have a large variety of somewhat stereotypical characters that add a lot of flavor to the story and give you more to care about. The animation work is incredibly detailed, creates a beautiful rendition of Tolkien's Middle-earth, and also lacks good motion and emotion. Basically, they did a fantastic job with the background designs and the character designs. It looks and feels like a story taking place in Middle-earth. The movement isn't great though, and the faces aren't good at expressing emotion. As the characters move around, they feel out of place. They're animated, cartoon characters rigidly moving around in realistic looking settings, and it feels mismatched. When it comes time to do action sequences, they tend to be fairly basic. The closest they come to standout moments are these quick scenes of something cool happening. But it'll happen in an instant, and the animation work will lack a lot of detail. During emotional scenes, we get rigid faces from the characters while the voice actors are expressing deep emotions. It doesn't work at all during these moments and often undercuts the performances a little bit. It feels like watching an older 90s animation where the budgets were limited and so they had to do everything with less frames. When comparing it to most of the modern animations that came out this year, it just doesn't hold up. Sound-wise, they had a lot of ambient tracks and a ton of fantasy-style orchestral songs. The orchestral songs were reminiscent of the Peter Jackson films, with a few of the songs even being reused, like the one from Pelennor Fields. It sounds great and gives the story that epic feeling that the movies managed to create. The ambient tracks did a great job of setting the mood in different environments. The music wasn't overly memorable aside from the reused movie tracks, but they did a good job in the moment. They were entertaining, brought the right emotions into the mix, and didn't interfere with the film in any way. Personally, I think I would have enjoyed this film more if it didn't have so many references to the Lord of the Rings films. I liked the original parts of the film and story, but found myself rolling my eyes constantly at all the forced nostalgia moments. The story also doesn't quite feel like a Tolkien story. It has too much reliance on magic and deus ex machina. Tolkien's stories always had that stuff too, but it felt like it was in addition to the human struggle. In this film, the human struggle takes a back seat to all of the magical elements. That said, I enjoyed the film and I thought it was a decent way to spend a couple of hours. For a rating, I'd give this film a 7 out of 10. Remember, these are just my thoughts on the film. Let me know what you think in the comments section below. Bye-bye!